The stars were quiet. For 500,000 years, the night above Earth had been untouched, cold, and silent. But tonight, that silence broke. They came back. The alien fleet slipped from the darkness of deep space, like shadows cutting across the black canvas of the universe. Their ships were enormous, old, and built with a design that looked more like temples than machines. These were not explorers. These were rulers who had once commanded half the galaxy. Long ago, when they last looked at Earth, the planet had been nothing. A blue-green world filled with forests, oceans, and crawling life. At best, there were strange upright creatures who made fire and stone tools. Nothing more. No cities, no machines, no sky towers, only scattered tribes and whispers of thought. To the aliens, Earth was unimportant, a forgotten stone in the endless river of stars. But now, as their fleet moved closer, they saw something that made them pause. Earth was glowing from orbit. The planet looked alive with fire. But it was not natural fire, it was light. Bright veins of gold and white spread across the dark side of the Earth, like rivers of energy. Vast clusters of light-marked cities, linked by glowing lines that stretched like spiderwebs across continents. The oceans reflected moving trails of light too, ships and machines cutting across the waves. And circling the planet was something that had never existed before. A crown of steel, satellites, thousands of them, each one watching. Each one awake. The alien commanders sat in silence. Their eyes, some with more than two, stared at the screens. The younger officers whispered in confusion. The elders frowned, their bodies stiff with disbelief. This was not possible in their records. Only 500,000 years had passed. To them that was nothing, half a blink in cosmic time. No species, no matter how clever, could climb from fire to this in such a short moment. Yet Earth had done it. The scanners of the alien fleet began to hum. Beams of invisible light swept across the planet, searching, measuring. Data filled their systems, atmospheric changes, strange radio signals, pulsing waves of energy that wrapped around the globe. The aliens watched in growing shock. The planet had changed. Its air was rich with chemicals not found in nature, pollution from machines, smoke from industry, trails of strange gases. The seas carried heat far beyond normal, moved by engines and ships. And the sky itself buzzed with signals. Radio, television, digital streams, countless voices of humanity, flying through the air at every second. The commanders were quiet. They had seen many young civilizations before, but none like this. Most species took millions of years to climb from primitive life to true power. Some never climbed at all, but humans had done it in record time. And then, the scanners returned a final reading, one that made the entire fleet freeze. Earth was not just alive. Earth was looking back. The alien ships felt it. Hidden radars on the surface had locked onto them, painting their fleet with precision. It was like standing in the dark and feeling a predator's eyes on your neck. Earth knew they were here. Earth had already seen them. For the first time in thousands of years, the aliens felt something they had forgotten, something they thought their kind had erased from the galaxy long ago. Fear. The older commander broke the silence. His voice was deep, rough like stone grinding against stone. This world, it was primitive when we left. How could it become this? No one answered. The younger officers checked their screens again and again, as if the numbers might change. But the numbers did not lie. Humanity was awake. Humanity had risen. And now, as the alien fleet floated above the blue planet, a strange feeling spread among them. It was not pride, not anger, not even curiosity. It was dread. Something had happened on Earth during those 500,000 years. Something impossible, something terrifying. The aliens had returned, expecting to find a weak world ready to be conquered again. Instead, they found a world that might conquer them. The alien fleet drifted silently above the blue planet, their massive ships cloaked in shadows. They had returned after 500,000 years, expecting a simple world of forests and oceans. Instead, they stared at a globe that pulsed with strange energy. The first commander gave the order, and their machines began to scan the planet. Invisible waves reached downward, touching every corner of Earth. Numbers poured into their systems. The results came back too quickly, almost violently, as if Earth itself wanted to shout the truth at them. Cities. So many cities. From orbit, they had already seen the glowing rivers of light, but now the scans confirmed a scale. The human settlements were not small. They were vast, stretching for hundreds of miles, filled with towers of steel and glass, powered by energy that made the scanners stutter. Entire continents shone like fire. The alien officers leaned forward in disbelief. They saw heat signatures from millions of engines, ships crossing oceans in endless chains, aircraft moving like swarms of insects in the sky. The planet was not only alive, it was overflowing with motion, noise, and power. One younger alien whispered what the others were afraid to say. This world, it has become a machine. But the numbers were still climbing. The scan showed hidden signals, coded transmissions, bouncing between satellites. Some were so complex that even the alien computers struggled to decode them. The air itself was filled with human voices, music, and strange data that changed every second. It was as if the whole planet was speaking at once. The commander's eyes narrowed. He remembered Earth as a primitive land, a world of animals with sticks, humans who hunted with fire and stone. Yet in this short span of cosmic time, those fragile creatures had filled the skies with metal. And then came the most shocking reading. Earth was looking back. The alien fleet's scanners were powerful, but now their ships began to feel a strange pulse from below. It was not random. It was precise. Radars on Earth had locked onto their ships with frightening accuracy. Not only that, defense systems were activating. Huge structures on the surface rose from hidden silos, glowing with energy, ready to fire. The alien fleet had always seen themselves as hunters, but now, drifting above Earth, they realized they were being hunted. Silence fell across the command chamber. None of them dared speak. Their kind had enslaved dozens of species, destroyed countless worlds, crushed resistance wherever it rose. But here was a single planet that seemed to whisper, "We are not afraid of you." One officer finally broke the silence. "Commander, should we cloak? Should we hide?" The elder commander shook his head slowly. His voice was low, heavy with something none of them wanted to admit. "No, hiding will not matter. They already see us." The data kept flowing in, every number striking like a blade. The humans had weapons in orbit, machines circling the planet with beams of unknown energy. They had stations on the moon, structures hidden under the surface that glowed like hives of fire. Even beneath the oceans, the scans found shapes of metal. Submarines too large, too fast, moving like predators through the dark water. The younger officers could no longer contain their fear. "This is not possible," one cried. "No race evolves this fast. 500,000 years. It should take tens of millions. This world should still be savage." But the commander only stared at the glowing image of Earth. Deep inside, he already knew the truth. The humans were not like the others. They were not slow builders, not cautious dreamers. They were something different, something dangerous. As the scans deepened, the alien fleet discovered yet another horror. Hidden deep in Earth's crust were vast tunnels filled with machines, entire underground cities carved into the rock, protected, fortified. The humans had prepared for invasion, not just once, but for centuries. The alien fleet had returned, thinking Earth would be weak. Instead, they had flown straight into the teeth of a trap, and then, without warning, the alien scanners were cut off. Their data streams froze. Their computers flickered. For the first time, their mighty systems had been silenced by Earth itself. The aliens gasped. "They are blocking us," one officer shouted. "They are shutting our scans down." It was true. Human technology was interfering, breaking into their systems, twisting their codes. The aliens had never seen such boldness. This was not just defense, it was attack. Earth had reached into their machines as if to say, "We control what you see." The commander's hands tightened against the edge of his chair. He did not want to believe it, but the truth was burning into his mind. The humans were not prey anymore. They were predators, silent predators who had grown sharp teeth in the dark. Above the planet, the alien fleet floated in fear. They had returned as conquerors, yet in a single moment they realized they were no longer the masters of this place. Earth was awake, and it was watching them. The alien fleet hovered in silence. For long moments, no one spoke. Their scanners had been broken, their systems disrupted, and the planet below glared at them with unseen eyes. The commanders felt a weight pressing down on them, heavier than gravity, heavier than the endless dark of space. At last, one of the officers broke the silence. His voice trembled, though he tried to hide it. "We cannot remain like this. We must send a signal." The commander nodded. To flee without speaking would shame them forever. Their empire had once ruled the stars with a single gesture. Fear was not a language they allowed themselves. If humans were now intelligent, if they were now something more, then the old way was clear. Speak to them, remind them of the power that still waited above their sky. A message was prepared. The same message they had always used for new civilizations. A greeting, simple and direct, filled with promises of knowledge and peace, but wrapped in the unspoken command of obedience. It was a voice meant to tame, to make weaker minds kneel. The signal fired. It moved through the void like a spear of light. carrying the words of the Empire straight into the air of Earth. The aliens waited. At first, there was silence, a long, heavy silence that grew unbearable. Some began to believe the humans were too primitive to understand. Others believed their message had broken through and the humans were preparing a reply. The commander said nothing. He only stared at the blue planet, his eyes fixed on the glowing web of light that spread across its surface. And then the reply came. It was not one voice. It was thousands. A roar of sound, a storm of languages, all pouring into the alien receivers at once. Every word was clear. Every word was sharp. The humans spoke in English, in Chinese, in Hindi, in tongues the aliens had never heard before, but the meaning was always the same. They knew who stood above them. They knew what had come, and they were not afraid. One voice rose louder than the rest, cutting through the storm. A human voice, deep and calm. It spoke in perfect translation, as if it had always known their tongue. "We see you." The chamber went silent. The words carried no panic, no fear, only certainty. The commander leaned forward, his throat tight. The voice continued. "We know your kind. We know what you did. You thought the galaxy forgot. You thought Earth would remain in chains of stone and fire. You were wrong." The officers looked at one another. How could these creatures know? Their history was buried in ruined archives across half the stars. The Empire had erased its crimes wherever it could. But these humans, they spoke as if they had read the truth. One younger officer whispered, almost choking on the words, "They know us." The human voice returned, colder now. "You ruled the stars long ago. You broke species, you burnt worlds. You left nothing but ash. You left us too, when we were still crawling, when we were too weak to fight. But we learned, we grew, and now, you return, expecting us to kneel." The voice stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the words. The commander's skin prickled. He felt something he had not felt in hundreds of thousands of years. The humans were not greeting them. They were not asking for peace. They were warning them. One of the alien ships tried to respond, desperate to take back control. Another message was prepared, filled with threats and reminders of their power. But before the signal was sent, the human voice cut in again, clear and sharp as a blade. "Earth kneels to no one." The words struck like lightning. The chamber filled with whispers. Some officers panicked, others furious. The commander raised his hand and silenced them. He stared at the planet below, and in his chest he felt the cold weight of truth. The humans were not weak. They were not begging. They were standing taller than any prey had ever dared. Another wave of human transmissions followed. Not words, but images. Screens lit up with visions of their world. Vast cities filled with millions. Towers that touched the clouds. Machines moving faster than the eye could follow. Ships cutting through oceans of steel. Weapons lined across mountains, ready and waiting. The aliens watched, stunned. The humans were not showing fear. They were showing strength. They were showing everything they had built, daring the Empire to try. The commander could not look away. His heart pounded. He had seen rebellions before. He had seen slaves rise and fall, crushed beneath the weight of Empire fire. But this was different. This was not rebellion. This was defiance born of absolute confidence. The human voice spoke one last time, soft but filled with steel. "You have returned after 500,000 years. But listen carefully. This is not your world anymore. This is ours. Leave now, or learn what fear truly means." The transmission ended. The alien chamber was left in silence, heavy and suffocating. No one dared speak. The commander leaned back in his chair. His claws tightened against the armrest, and for the first time in ages, he could not stop the thought that filled his mind. They had come to remind Earth of its place. Instead, Earth had reminded them of theirs. The alien fleet did not retreat. Not yet. Pride chained them in place. The humans had spoken boldly, had shown their strength, but the commanders still believed power lay in numbers, in the old ways of domination. Their empire had survived for millions of years because no world, no matter how defiant, had ever truly stood against them. The order was given, move closer. Engines roared in the void. Giant ships shifted position, their dark hulls gliding toward the planet like blades drawn across a throat. They descended into low Earth orbit, closer than they had dared before. The move was meant to frighten, to show the humans that their words meant nothing before real power. But instead of fear, Earth answered with fire. As the alien ships cut across the sky, the surface below came alive. Entire regions lit up with sudden energy surges. Hidden doors opened in the oceans, and massive structures rose from the waves. Metal towers, bristling with weapons, gleamed in the moonlight. Along the coastlines, colossal railguns emerged, their barrels stretching for miles. From mountains and deserts, silos cracked open, releasing weapons that hummed with energy far older than the aliens expected humans to have. The alien fleet's sensors screamed warnings. Dozens, then hundreds of targeting locks burned against their ships. Beams of radar painted their hulls with precision so sharp it felt like invisible fingers pressing against their throats. The commanders froze. This was not a scattered defense. This was strategy. Humanity had not stumbled into strength by accident. They had prepared, built, and hidden their power, waiting for the day the sky would once again bring invaders. And it was not only Earth. The moon lit up next. From its craters human bases revealed themselves. Silvery domes opened to expose massive cannons. Long spear-like towers rotated and aimed upward. Ships, sleek and deadly, launched from underground hangars, engines blazing as they rose into formation. The aliens' eyes widened. They had not seen such tactics since the days of their greatest wars. Humanity had turned its closest moon into a fortress, but the greatest shock came from the oceans. The alien scanners reported movement beneath the waves, something massive, something alive with heat. At first they thought it was tectonic disturbance. Then the truth surfaced. Ships, gigantic submarines broke the water, their hulls shining with strange black metal. They were not like any vessels the aliens had seen before. Some carried missile bays larger than cities. Others unfolded into shapes designed for war in both sea and sky. From hidden ports beneath the surface, hundreds of smaller craft poured out, swarming like angry hornets. The ocean, once silent, was now a battlefield waiting to happen. The alien fleet tried to adjust. Commands echoed, weapons began to arm, but the humans were faster. They had been preparing for centuries, and every move of the aliens seemed expected, almost predicted. The commander's voice trembled for the first time in his long career. They knew we would return. One of his officers shouted in panic. "Commander, they are locking onto every ship. Hundreds of weapons are tracking us. They could fire at any moment." The commander stared at the glowing planet. The humans had not yet fired. They were not rushing into battle. No, they were waiting, letting the aliens see just enough to understand the truth. It was not a desperate display. It was a warning. Still, the alien pride burned. Another order was given. Power up their own weapons. Show Earth that the Empire's fire was still unmatched. Across the fleet, colossal cannons charged, their tips glowing with deadly energy. The void lit with rising heat, a storm ready to break. But before the first shot could be fired, the humans acted. Above the atmosphere, hidden satellites suddenly came alive. Their signals blasted across the alien fleet, slicing into systems, forcing their weapons to stall. Targeting arrays froze. Engines sputtered. The great war machines of the Empire, veterans of 1,000 conquests, faltered in the face of human code. The alien crews screamed in disbelief. Their ships, symbols of eternal control, were being blinded, disabled, as if by invisible hands. The commander slammed his claw against the console, rage and fear twisting inside him. How do they reach into our systems? No answer came, only silence, broken by the constant beeping of warnings and failures. And then, on every alien screen, a new image appeared. It was not an attack, not a weapon. It was a human face. .com, steady eyes, unblinking. The voice returned. "You have come closer. Good, now you see. You are not the hunters here. You are the prey. If you fire, you will not leave this sky alive." The aliens stared at the face, their pride crumbling with every word. They had meant to frighten Earth, to force obedience. But instead, they had revealed their own weakness. The commander sat frozen, unable to speak. Around him, his officers looked pale, trembling, some unable to meet his gaze. The truth was undeniable now. Earth had been waiting for them. Earth was ready, and somewhere deep inside the commander's heart, a thought formed, one that terrified him more than any human weapon. If this is only what they reveal, what horrors are still hidden? The alien fleet hung above Earth, trapped between rage and fear. Their weapons had failed, their systems broken by human interference. They could not fire, could not move with freedom, and yet they still lingered, unwilling to admit defeat. Pride was the only thing keeping them from fleeing into the dark. Then, without warning, the human voice returned. It was not broadcast as a single message this time. It spread across every alien frequency, filling every ship at once. It was calm, steady, almost cold, and every word cut through the silence like steel through bone. "You left us to die." The chamber inside the flagship froze. The words felt heavier than any weapon. They were not spoken in anger but in something sharper accusation. The voice continued. "500,000 years ago you looked at us, We were weak. We were small. You thought we would remain on our knees forever. You left us behind, certain we would break under the weight of time. But you were wrong. Across the fleet, the aliens listened. Some shook their heads in denial. Others lowered their eyes, ashamed, though they would never admit it aloud. The voice grew louder. We learned, we fought, we tore ourselves apart and built again. Every war made us stronger. Every disaster made us harder. You thought fire would consume us. Instead, it forged us. Images flooded the alien screens again. Not just cities and weapons this time, but history. Humans in ancient armor, fighting with swords and shields. Soldiers marching through endless mud. Machines of war rolling across shattered landscapes. Rockets rising into the stars. And finally, sleek ships slipping silently into orbit, circling Earth like predators. The aliens stared at the timeline of struggle, of pain, of survival. To them, it looked unnatural. No species should thrive through such endless conflict. Others would have perished, destroyed by their own violence. But humans had grown stronger. The voice struck again, sharper now. You ruled the stars once. You burned worlds. You thought no one would remember. But we remember. We know your empire. We know your cruelty. Do not think time has erased it. The commander's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. His officers looked to him, waiting for a reply, but he said nothing. He could not. The words filled him with a dread he did not want to name. Then the voice changed. It grew quiet, almost whisper-like, but the silence that followed made it more terrifying than any shout. You look at Earth and see prey. You see the same small world you abandoned, but you are blind. We are not prey. We are not victims. We are the storm that waited in the dark. The chamber shook with tension. The aliens felt something in their chest they had not felt in millennia. Warning. An instinct from the oldest days of their kind. It told them to run. And then came the final blow. The words that would carve themselves into the memory of every alien who heard them. Earth kneels to no one. The fleet went silent. Not even the hum of machinery dared to break the moment. Officers looked at one another in disbelief, in fear, in awe. For the first time, the Empire's hunters felt like prey. The humans were not begging for peace. They were not pleading for mercy. They were promising war if provoked. And worse still, the humans sounded certain they would win. The commander forced himself to speak, though his throat was dry. They are trying to frighten us. It is only words. But even as he said it, he knew it was a lie. The humans had already proven their strength. Their weapons, their defenses, their control of systems once thought untouchable, all of it showed they were not bluffing. Another transmission arrived. This time not only sound but sight. A human appeared again, a single figure standing tall, eyes fixed directly at the fleet. Behind him were not leaders in fine robes or crowns. Behind him were soldiers, engineers, workers, ordinary faces, men and women, young and old. Humanity itself stood behind this voice. You think yourselves eternal, the figure said, but you are dust. You are fading shadows of an empire that time has already broken. We are not shadows. We are fire. You cannot erase us. You cannot silence us. If you dare to test us, we will show you what fear truly means. The image ended. Silence returned. The alien commander sat motionless. Pride urged him to fight, to remind these humans who had once ruled. But another voice, quieter and older, whispered in his mind. It told him the truth he did not want to face. If they fought now, here, they would not win. The humans had shown only pieces of their strength. If this was the warning, then the true power of Earth was still hidden, and that thought was more terrifying than anything else. The fleet drifted above the glowing planet, caught between pride and terror. They had returned to conquer, but instead, they were learning what it meant to stand before humanity, and deep inside, the commander knew, this was only the beginning. The alien fleet lingered in uneasy silence. The humans had spoken, their warning echoing inside every ship. Pride still held the aliens in orbit, but the edges of that pride were cracking. For the first time in countless years, commanders of the old empire whispered of retreat, yet before any decision was made, curiosity burned through their fear. How had this world risen so far, so fast? How had these fragile creatures, once barely able to stand, turned into a power that could terrify them? The command ship gave the order, dig deeper. Their archivists opened ancient records, searching for clues, data fragments from the last time Earth was observed. Old reports described tribes with stone weapons, creatures barely aware of the stars above them. Nothing in those reports suggested the strength they saw now, but something had happened, something invisible in the records, something the Empire had never expected. So the aliens turned their attention to Earth's own history. With their scanners partly restored, they began pulling signals from human networks, streams of information hidden inside radio and digital waves. At first it seemed meaningless, noise, millions of voices, endless images, stories scattered like dust. But as their systems pieced the fragments together, a picture began to form, and what they saw chilled them. The humans had not lived in peace. They had not grown slowly, carefully, like other species. They had burned their way forward. Every step of progress was written in conflict. Civilizations rose and fell in cycles of blood and fire. Empires collapsed, new ones rose, and each time, humanity grew sharper, faster, stronger. The aliens watched scenes of endless war, soldiers fighting in deserts, in jungles, in frozen wastes, weapons evolving from sticks and stones to machines of steel and fire, and then to rockets and missiles that could split the sky. Entire cities destroyed, yet rebuilt again, always taller, always brighter, as if destruction itself was only fuel. One officer whispered in horror, "They thrive in chaos." Another added, voice shaking, "No other species survives like this. War breaks them, and yet, it makes them grow." The commander said nothing. His eyes stayed fixed on the stream of human history, each image stabbing at him like a blade. Humans did not fear extinction. They had faced it too many times and survived. Plagues, famines, disasters, wars that should have erased them forever. Yet every time they crawled back, fiercer than before, and then the aliens uncovered something worse. Humans did not only fight enemies, they fought themselves. Their greatest wars were not against other species, but against their own kind. And somehow, instead of ending their story, those wars drove them further, forcing their minds to invent, to adapt, to push limits no sane species would cross. It was not evolution in the natural sense. It was something else, something unnatural, something terrifying. Humanity had turned survival into an art, into a weapon sharper than any blade. The alien commander felt his chest tighten. He had studied countless civilizations. He knew the patterns of rise and fall. But humanity broke every pattern. They were not meant to exist in this state. They should have burned themselves into ash long ago. Yet here they were, stronger than ever, ready to face an empire that had once ruled the stars. The archivists continued their work, tracing human steps into the modern age. They found records of space exploration, the first fragile machines leaving Earth, the first boots on the moon. They found evidence of colonies, hidden outposts, silent ships drifting far from their home star. Humanity had not only built a fortress around Earth, they had begun reaching into the void, planting seeds of expansion. One officer's voice cracked as he read the data aloud. "They are spreading. They are not stopping at Earth. They will not stop at all." The commander finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. "This is not a civilization. This is a storm. It grows with every strike." Fear rippled through the chamber. They all felt it now. Humanity was not just another young species. Humanity was inevitable. Their struggle had shaped them into something unstoppable, something no empire could cage. And then came the final discovery, the one that silenced even the boldest officers. The archivists found human records not only of survival, but of imagination. Stories, myths, visions of the future. Humans dreamed of conquering the stars long before they had the means. They told tales of endless expansion, of battles among galaxies, of enemies defeated in the dark. They had been preparing for this moment in their minds for centuries. The aliens shivered. A species that dreamed of war among the stars would one day make those dreams real. The commander closed his eyes. He could almost see the future written before him. But the humans would not remain on Earth. They would rise, they would spread, and when they did, nothing would stop them. Not his fleet, not his empire, not the galaxy itself. He opened his eyes, staring once more at the glowing blue planet below. A terrible truth settled over him like a shadow. The humans were not just survivors. They were conquerors, waiting for the right time to begin. The alien fleet floated above Earth, silent and broken by doubt. They had seen the cities blazing with light, the weapons hidden in oceans and mountains, the fortresses on the moon. They had heard the human voice, steady and fearless, declaring that Earth bowed to no one. And now, after tearing into the history of this strange species, they knew the truth. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was the storm. Inside the command chamber of the flagship, the air was heavy with tension. Officers stared at their commander, waiting for his decision. Some whispered for attack, others begged for retreat, but none spoke with certainty. For the first time in their long history, the Empire's hunters did not know what to do. The commander's eyes lingered on the blue planet below. It looked peaceful at a glance, white clouds drifting over green forests and wide oceans, but he knew better. Beneath that beauty was a power unlike anything he had ever seen, a power that had grown through endless struggle, through fire and blood, through 500,000 years of preparation. One officer slammed his fist against the console. We are the Empire. No young species has ever stood against us. If we leave now, the galaxy will laugh at us. They will say we were afraid. Another officer, younger and trembling, whispered back, and if we stay, they will not laugh. They will bury us. The words echoed like a curse. The commander felt the weight of pride pressing against reason. The Empire demanded strength. To flee was weakness. But deep inside, a voice older than pride whispered a truth he could not ignore. If they struck first, if they unleashed their fire upon Earth, it would not be victory. It would be suicide. The humans had shown only a glimpse of their power. Their voice had carried the confidence of a predator that had not yet revealed its claws. If provoked, the humans would fight, and they would fight to the very end. Worse, they would learn from every strike, adapt to every weapon, grow stronger with every loss, and in time, they would not only defend Earth, they would leave it. The commander shuddered. He could almost see it already, human ships spreading across the galaxy, human soldiers planting their banners on alien worlds, human voices echoing through the stars, not begging, not kneeling, commanding. A warning signal pulsed through the fleet. Human ships were moving again. Sleek craft rose from Earth's surface and took formation in orbit, encircling the alien fleet like wolves around wounded prey. They did not fire, they only watched, engines glowing, weapons locked. The meaning was clear. Earth was giving them a choice. The commander's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. His pride screamed for battle, but his instincts, sharpened through centuries of conquest, told him the truth. This was not their battlefield, not anymore. The age of the Empire was over. A new age was beginning, and it belonged to humanity. He gave the order. Retreat. Gasps filled the chamber. Some officers cried out in protest, others sagged in relief. Engines roared as the fleet turned, breaking formation, pulling away from Earth's gravity. One by one, the ships angled toward the void, fleeing back into the endless dark. From the surface, humans watched. Satellites tracked every movement. Bases stood ready, weapons still locked on target. Yet no missiles fired, no cannons blazed. Humanity let them leave, as if to say, run, tell your kind what you saw, spread the fear. As the alien fleet slipped further into space, the commander allowed himself one final look at the blue planet shrinking behind them. It glowed brighter than any star, alive with lights, alive with voices, alive with power. He whispered to himself, though no one else could hear, they are not prey, they are the end of us all. The fleet vanished into the dark, carrying with it the seeds of terror. In every corner of the galaxy, the story would spread. The Empire had returned to Earth and found something that made them tremble. A species that had risen from fire and ruin, a species that refused to bow, a species that was waiting for its chance to claim the stars. And those who heard the story would know the truth. Humanity was no longer a whisper on a forgotten world. Humanity was awake. Humanity was rising. One day soon, they would leave their cradle. And when they did, the galaxy itself would tremble.